Today is June 21st, 2016, and we are interviewing Andrew Mallett in Taylorville, Illinois. Mr. Mallett is 45 years old, having been born on March 10th of 1971. My name is Sue Burkholder, and I will be the interviewer. Mr. Mallett, do you mind if I call you Andrew for the interview?
That's fine.
Okay. Andrew, would you please state for the recording in what war and branch of service that you served?
U.S. Navy, Persian Gulf, Desert Storm.
Well, to start with, I'd like to just know a little bit about you, when you were born, where you grew up. So, when and or where were you born, and in what area?
I was born in Skokie, Illinois, Skokie Valley Hospital. Pretty good area. I don't remember much of it, but good area, close-knit community, good family gathering.
Good. And who were your parents, and what were their occupations?
Charles and Marla Mallett. My father was a tool and die and setup person for a metal company. I don't know exactly what he did then, but Mom, I think at the time, was a secretary.
Okay. And how about siblings? Did you have siblings?
I do have a younger sister, about 18 months younger than I am.
Okay. And has any of your family served in the military?
Not that I'm aware of. I'm the only one.
Okay. And what were you doing before you entered the service?
I was in high school.
Okay.
Just a few part-time jobs here and there after school, but
Okay. And why did you want to go into the military?
something I always wanted to do. I always believed in this country. I've been a patriot as long as I can remember. I was a little kid. I saw a guy in uniform saluting a flag one day and didn't know what he was doing, why. I didn't understand it. I asked him, and he went into this big speech about the flag, what it meant to him and this country, and it turned my heart, and ever since then it's what I wanted to do.
Very nice. So you served in the Navy.
Yes.
And what war again did you serve in?
Persian Gulf, Desert Storm.
And why did you choose the Navy?
At the time, I chose it for the educational program, aviation electronics, working on aircraft, and I just wanted to be aboard ship and deal with all that life.
Okay. And what was the highest rank that you achieved?
AE E3.
Okay. So, do you recall your first days of service, and what are your general impressions about that?
Well, it's the beginning of the MEP Center was controlled chaos. And then the bus ride, very nervous, all the way up to Great Lakes for boot camp, and then the fun began. I just remember a lot of yelling, looking around scared, nervous, me and about another 100 plus people, all of us not knowing what we were doing, why we were doing it, what was going to happen. Then they just took us through the line and just started showing us, go here, do this, do that, and next thing we know, first day of boot camp's already over with. Early the next morning, banging a garbage can and starting the second day.
And are there any memorable moments during your basic training that you remember that either funny or maybe not so funny?
There was a couple company clowns, so to say, always getting punished, and a few times they got us punished, doing a lot of calisthenics and exercises. My biggest thing, though, remembering was our graduation day in the blip hangar. Our company was a color company, and having earned all the flags that we could and all the honors we could, being paraded around there and just watching our families in the crowd, standing up, clapping, that was my fondest memory.
Is there anything that you learned in basic training that made you question everything you knew before you joined the military?
A few times with some of the head games and the overexertive exercising. There were definitely times like, why did I do this? And then every time I would think that, I just remember back to that guy when I was a kid again.
Do you have any one particular instructor that you remember or stood out to you that, for whatever reason?
I'm sorry, at this time I don't.
Okay.
It's been too many years.
That's okay. Okay, so you graduated from basic training, then where did you go?
Flew out to meet my ship, met it in Philippines, and I did that by way of several flights and several places, from Illinois down to Dallas, up to Anchorage, Alaska, then from there caught an Air Force COD, C-141, and flew out to Tokyo, Japan, then Kadena, Japan, then finally to Clark Air Base in the Philippines, and that's where I finally met with the ship.
Did you go on to take any specialized training?
I went to aviation's AEA-1 school, Millington, Tennessee, from boot camp. I went there first, and then was there I think 22 weeks for school. Everybody though had to do, I think it was a 30-day tour if I remember right, in mess hall. So, and then from there I went out to ship. So,
what was your MOS?
Aviation electrician, AE.
And how, during that time, how did you adapt to military life, including like the physical regimen, the barracks, or the sleeping arrangements, food, that type of thing?
It just all became part of normal everyday life. I'd say I acclimated to it pretty well. It just seemed normal.
Mm-hmm. And what did you do to mentally prepare yourself? Leaving basic training and then the advanced training and then onto the ship. What did you do to mentally prepare yourself for that transition?
Nothing. I just took it as a surprise and waited to see what was going to happen. I had no idea what I was in for. I'd seen pictures of ships in TV programs and other books and things, and I definitely was waiting for the surprise of seeing the ship in person.
So, what was it like serving on a ship?
It was great. I was on an aircraft carrier. There was 6,000 guys. At the time, our ship, the USS Carl Vinson, I believe was the longest ship or largest ship in the Navy fleet. Watching the planes move around on the flight deck and down in the hangar bay, up and down the elevators, the helicopters, just like Map Center with controlled chaos, people running everywhere, and yet everything was as safe as could be. You had to be extremely vigilant and aware of your surroundings 100% of the time. You couldn't slack off for any reason. One thing I did find in my time on board ship, if someone made a mistake, someone got hurt. And there was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I was lucky enough to not see any fatalities. I've heard of them. So.
Okay. If I can back up for just a second, when you first arrived on the ship, the first time, first of all, was the ship docked when you entered it, or did you fly out to the ship?
The ship did port at Subic Bay, or Clark Air Base, somewhere in that area. I don't even remember now. But I boarded through the pier there. There was other places where we anchored out and took ferries. I think Kowloon Bay in Hong Kong, for example.
And what did you feel like when you first saw the ship that you knew you were going to go on? What kind of reaction did you have?
I want to say my first reaction was, I can't believe how big this thing is. And then overjoyed elation at, here I am, I finally did it, I finally reached what I've been striving for all my life.
So you boarded the ship, and then what happened? Where did you go, and can you tell us a little more about your daily life?
Let's see. Bring back memories here. Well, first I was taken and shown where I'm going to sleep. I was shown the AIMD, Aviation Intermediate Maintenance Department, where I'll be working and doing my daily life. Then I was taken on a tour of the ship, shown basically where everything is, where I'm allowed to go, where I'm not allowed to go. And then from there, I was given instruction as far as the shipboard life, as far as corrosion control, and other small classes that I had to take for import emergency team, at sea rescue detail, to go through for firefighting and safety, being primary investigator in team for assessing damage and knowing what had to be done, and just things like that. Seeing the, for lack of a better term, coffin lockers where we slept, 3 bunks in about a 6-foot period, about 6 by 6 area, and they've got 3 bunks, and you felt like you're crawling into a coffin to sleep.
And how did you handle that?
That was a little bit nerve-wracking at first. I never realized I was claustrophobic until I got in there, but it eased after a couple days.
And what about the food that you were served? How was that?
The food was excellent. I'm not going to say the best in the world or the best chefs in the world, but it wasn't far off. We had quite a variety to choose from. There was a lot of specially made dishes. We had a forward mess hall and an aft mess hall, so depending on what type of food you wanted, you went to one or the other. 3 meals a day, and there was usually, I don't know, I guess you'd say about a 2 o'clock in the morning little snack thing too, if people wanted. So it was really good. Long lines waiting to get in the chow hall though.
Yeah. Do you remember what your favorite food was?
Honestly, no, I don't.
Okay, that's fine. So on your daily, what was your daily routine? What was your, as you were doing your job? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I get up, go muster. From there, just be in the shop and see what needed to be done, if anything came in for my specialty, which was the fire detection control system for A6s and F-14s. And if there was nothing like that, I'd walk around the shop trying to learn other aspects of jobs and technical pieces, so I could try to specialize in something else if needed, or could step in and help if needed. When I had some downtime, I'd go up on flight deck or on the rail or up on the island, and I'd watch the flight operations, planes taking off and landing, or just look out at the ocean and just realize how insignificant and small we really are.
So just in your downtime then, were there social activities, or how did?
Oh yeah, we'd play cards up in the Berlin area, or we'd watch movies or play some cards down in the shop if everyone was standing down from work at the moment. Yeah. It was a good time, good people. We crossed the equator and got shellback initiation. That was interesting thing. Going through an obstacle course of all kinds of garbage and slop, and having to wrestle my fellow shipmates on the deck while crawling on our hands and knees. But it was all worth it at the end, because at the end you get your certificate for being shellback and no longer polywog, and it was just a great feeling. You know, it's a little bit of hazing that's Navy tradition, and was great. I'll never regret it, and I never look back at a negative aspect of it.
Were you awarded any medals or citations during your service?
Yes, Armed Forces Expeditionary Medal for Persian Gulf Desert Storm from 5 May 1990 through 1 June 1990. National Defense Service Medal for serving during time of war, and Sea Service Deployment Ribbon.
Did you receive them during a ceremony? Was it for the medals, or just they were just kind of given to you?
Just given to us.
Okay. Let's see. Was the ship ever involved in combat?
I know it was after I got out, not during the time I was in though. We stayed out far enough that we didn't have to actually see the combat, but we did launch our aircraft for the combat, so.
Were there any additional duties outside of your MOS that were assigned to you, or was it pretty much just what?
At Sea Rescue and Citizens Detail and the Import Emergency Team, whenever we were on duty. If we were in port, it'd be the Import Emergency Team. We'd have to do aspects of that. It's fire watch, quarterdeck watch, entry watches, just constantly looking for any sign of fire, flooding, damage of any sort, being able to assess it, find it, determine what's needed to be done, and taking care of the situation.
Okay. Were there any incidents that happened on board that come to mind?
Several times there was flooding, a couple fires. They had to be dealt with. It always seemed to be the most inopportune times too. They always happen to be in the middle of the night when they happen. You just get to sleep and all of a sudden you hear bells ringing real loud over the 1MC and you have to hop out of bed and go running.
Yeah. And those were all taken care of? I mean, were they major incidents or just minor?
Every one of them was minor, but it seems like major at the time. No matter how much preparation you do or train you have for something, until you actually see it and deal with it, you just can't explain it. And even seeing and doing it, I can't explain it. It was just so far beyond what I thought at the time. And it seemed like such a major thing, and then when we get done with it and get everything put away and get areas cleaned up, it's like, why did we make such a big issue of this? It was nothing. You know, no one got hurt. It was very minor damage. Usually a broken pipe caused something, or a loose wire sparked out. You know, but at the time when you see it, it's just like, what do we do?
Right. And then did your training kick in?
Yes, every time.
Good. Did you visit ports while you were out, or were you pretty much out at sea the whole time?
We were out at sea, but we did visit ports. I saw Kowloon Bay in Hong Kong. Philippines, we came back in there. Australia, I've been to Sydney and Perth. Both of those. I don't know, we didn't make South Korea on that Westpac. I think that's about all I saw, if I can remember right now.
And what were your impressions of those places, or is there what did you think interesting about them?
They're great places. Hong Kong especially, myself and a couple other my shipmates from my department, we went out and saw, at the time, Total Recall playing brand new in the theaters, and we went in the theater in Hong Kong, and the first thing that surprised us is everybody sitting around smoking in the theater. What the heck is going on around here? And then watching Arnold Schwarzenegger on screen with Chinese words and accent, and then having to read the whole movie with subtitles. That was something that was great. Philippines, very nice place, great people. Australia, I can never beat the type of country I saw there. The beauty of the plants and wildlife, the flora and the fauna, it's out of this world. The people there were very nice. It didn't matter if you were American, Australian, Hungarian, Asian, it didn't matter. They treat everybody with the utmost respect and dignity, and and just everything that I did in the Navy, which doesn't seem like much to me, I could never forget, and I'm blessed every day for it.
What kind of friendships and camaraderie did you form while serving?
A lot of close friendships and relationships. Unfortunately, since being out over time, we've all sort of separated and gone our separate ways and lost contact. But
Do you have any interesting stories about incidents with them or things that you went out and did that you'd like to share?
Several incidents, none that I'd really care to share. They're not really for interview type material.
Okay. All right.
Let's just say a lot of drinking involved.
Okay. So while you were on the ship, what was your main form of contact with your family?
While I was on board ship, a letter once in a while, but what I really did was just wait till I got important and I called home.
Okay. And those were special, I'm sure.
Oh yes. Sometimes having to wait up to 3 or 4 hours to use a phone, but it was well worth it. You know, each one of us, big hardened military veterans and strong brute men, all being on a phone crying, tears just pouring down our faces talking to our loved ones.
Sure. And I'm sure that was helpful and that encouraged.
It was always great talking to my family. That definitely made me feel better. It made them feel better knowing that I was still alive and safe. Mom always told me she couldn't wait till I got to port to call because she never knew what happened or what was going on. She didn't know how long it'd be in between times.
Mm-hmm.
And she said she worried more every day than I ever could.
How do you think today's wars are a bit different from when you were in? And you said you weren't necessarily directly involved in combat with the ship, but that, I don't know, there probably are some today, but how do you think they're different? Is there any changes that have been made? I mean, is it better? Do you feel it's worse? That type of thing.
Our military today is definitely a lot more ready and capable than we were back then. They definitely have a lot more technology at their disposal, a lot better armament and armor for themselves. The guys during desert Iraqi freedom, I guess, after 9/11, all the ones fighting in the desert since then, they're having a lot harder time than we ever did. Ours was short term. They're over there for a long time. They're having to fight and see things I can only imagine. You know, I've heard all those stories back when I was in. I've heard about them since, through veterans, through media, through movies and books. I know that it's a lot harder for them now, but at the same time it's easier for them. Like I said, that they're just so much better equipped, trained, better armed and armored. The technology is unbelievable that they have at their disposal now to help them. They're a lot safer now than they were back when I was in.
Is there anything else about the active duty time on the ship that you can think of that you'd like to share?
I'd give almost anything to go back to that life. I didn't think I would like it. As much as I dreamed of it and had that for my goal for life, once I got there I didn't think I would like it, but after about a week I couldn't imagine being anywhere else. And I'd give anything to go back there.
Okay, so how do you feel that your time spent in the military has impacted your life today?
It was very good. Deep impact. It gave me a lot of, I guess, moral stamina would be the correct word. It made me look at things in a whole new perspective. What I used to find as right and wrong is no longer such a matter as then as it is now. I strive to do my best now. I strive to keep everything in proper perspective and doing everything the best way. Morality and looking at the way I treat people and how I'm treated is definitely a lot different because of the military. I found that I get a lot of respect as an adult, just being as an adult. But once people find out that I'm a military veteran, it seems like their respect for me just goes up 100-fold, and in turn, I feel obligated to give that back to everybody I meet too.
And is this different from how it was when you first got out of the Navy?
When I first got out, people were like, Persian Gulf, what were you there for? We had no business being there. I'm not going to say it was the same for everybody, but I know a few people that I met coming home basically treated me like I was another person coming home from Vietnam, giving me the cold shoulder and want nothing to do with me and despise me for being a veteran. And those times definitely hurt.
Sure. So, we'll move ahead just a little bit to the days like that your service ended. Did you leave directly from serving on the ship when your service ended, or were you out somewhere else by then?
No, I was still serving board ship. We're down in Alameda, California. I went through, I did my sign-on procedures on board ship, and then 0600 on 12 June 93, I walked down the quarterdeck for the last time, off the elevator and onto the pier.
And how did you feel that day?
Happy and sad both. Happy that I made it through my tour. Sad that I was leaving the best group of people I've ever known in my life. Best job I've ever known and had. Just all memories I can never bring back. And
So you're out of the Navy now, and how did you handle switching your mindset when it was time to, as you're going home, from, of course, military to now you're a civilian?
I don't really look at it as a transition from going from military to civilian. I looked at it as military was making me grow up and become the man that I need to be. That's what I've tried to be ever since.
So, did you go home then to your family?
Yes, I did.
And how was that reunion?
It was great. Seemed to have a lot more family than I remembered. A lot more cousins that I never even knew existed, all for a big family reunion party when I got home.
So, since separating from the military, have you gone back to school, or what jobs have you worked in, that type of thing?
I went into the field of plastics. Started out as a machine operator, worked my way all the way up through to shift supervisor. College, I've gone through and worked to get my associate's degree, and pretty soon I'll finish towards my bachelor's. It's been a long road, but it's finally happening.
Have any of your other family members been inspired to serve in the military since you were in?
My niece and my nephew both have said that they want to serve. I don't know if they will or not. There's still a few more years before that happens. No one else that I can think of in my family has served. You asked me at the beginning if any of my family has ever served. I did forget, my uncle did serve in the National Guard for a little bit. I don't know how long, but he was in.
So
I'm sorry, I forgot about that.
Oh, no, it's all right. No problem. So overall, how do you feel like your military experiences have affected your life?
Great. I try to use things I've learned and garnered from them in every day. like I said, what I learned in the Navy made me the man I am today, and I strive to bring that forth in everything I do.
Can you put a name to any of the life lessons you learned in the military that have carried forward?
As far as
just things that you learned in the military that are now you just incorporated as part of your life, and
the
who you are.
propriety of knowing right and wrong, the morality I see in everyday situations, being able to instinctively, still with my training kicking in, know what to do in any given situation that I find myself in. Even when I doubt myself, training kicks in and takes over, and ends up being right anyways. So.
What do you feel like is the most positive thing that you took away from your experience in the service?
Oh, too many things to list or even think about there, because they were all positive. I would have to say just being a patriot and knowing that I did what I could to serve my country. I love this country and I gladly die for it.
Is there any message that you would like to leave for future generations who will either view or hear this interview?
You should owe it to yourself and your country to do your duty, do your job, be a member of our armed forces. If not for the patriotism or feeling that you're obligated to go, do it for yourself, make yourself a better person. That's the biggest thing about the military. It takes whatever you are and makes you better. No matter how bad you were before, you come out good. No matter how good you are, you come out better. I feel everybody should serve. It's the best thing in the world.
Is there anything that we haven't discussed that you would like to share as we bring this to a close?
Just like to say thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to tell my story. It's been a long time waiting.
Well, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for your service to our country.
Thank you.